Black, poetic G. Beautiful love, always.
Good afternoon, ladies and gents. I'm King George. I'm the owner of TY Productions. I'm the curator of Black 31 magazine. I'm here with another guest from the community. Listen, this lady right here is very special in the community. Listen, she is a poet. She is an artist instructor. She is a performer. She's a host. And she do so many different community things. In this interview, we're going to dive into a lot of things about poetry and a lot of different creative things that she into now and what she's getting into in the future. So without further ado, can we please give it up for Miss Lady Syren? Let's go.
Hey y'all, hey, peace and blessings.
You already know, you know it. So first and foremost, right, let the people know, how did Lady Syren grow up?
Ooh. Lady Syren grew up rough. Or I should say V grew up very rough. I had a tumultuous childhood. Still getting used to that. I was the eldest of 8 children. I recently lost my sister in September of 25.
Sorry to hear
so thank you. So yeah, I had a lot of responsibility from very, very early on. Responsibility I did not know what to do with. And gratefully, I was not crushed under the weight of said responsibilities. But yeah, it taught me a lot of harsh lessons in life. But you know, that's kind of the pros and cons of street smarts and common sense. Sometimes it comes from some really unforgiving teachers, and I mean that by life experience. Life experience is always your biggest teacher, and sometimes it can be your most harsh. So yeah, that's how I grew up. A little chaotic, a little stressful, but nonetheless we here.
What was the greatest lesson that you learned throughout life and just growing up?
Ooh, I want to say the greatest lesson that I've probably learned is to pour into self. There's this thing, like especially as an artist who, you know, really does try to write with intention, and as a woman, you know, writing from a place of empowerment. I have this thing where I'm like, I feel like we should serve ourselves first. And I know sometimes that sounds like backwards, because like a cook in a kitchen, they're cooking for everybody, they're serving everybody. Normally the cook is the last person to eat. However, when we are talking about pouring out your life essence, whether it is in your artistry, whether it is in showing up for the people that you love and care about, whether it's supporting your community, whether it's pouring into a younger generation, even if you aren't a parent, you are pouring out your life essence. Time is literally something you can't get back. So for me, my biggest lesson is I need to pour into myself first so that I can sustain everything else that I believe that I am holding up. Everything else that is dependent on me, counting on me to be there, to be strong, to be present, not just show up, but to be present, to really be in the moment with the things that I have committed myself to. I have to serve myself first, because otherwise, how do I have the sustenance and the energy to do the things that is required of me?
Absolutely. And let the people know, what is the meaning behind Lady Syren? What does Lady Syren mean?
Well, first and foremost, I'm a self-proclaimed perfect blend of feminine and fire. Okay, the lady and the siren. I am the siren and the song. All right, and it's so interesting because Lady Syren actually started out as a pen name for me to hide behind, writing about love, sensuality, and sex, of course. Writing about these things before I knew what these things were, before I had experienced these things. I did not know that there was already a rebellion in the foundation that would become who I am today as a teacher, as a performer, as an artist, as an author. So behind Lady Syren is a woman who has had to kill multiple versions of herself and then breathe new life into the evolution Behind Lady Syren is a woman who is very much grounded in who she is, and no longer shrinks. I will not shrink on stages, and I will not shrink in rooms just to make other people comfortable. But Lady Syren is also a person, like I said, feminine and fire. I don't just carry fire, and the fire that I do carry is warm for the people that I invite into my space, okay? In other places, yes, it will absolutely burn bridges, burn feelings, okay, and burn down the fuckery. That is what is behind Lady Syren.
Okay, I respect it. I respect it. And I know that you are a poet and you are a host. And I actually met you hosting.
Mm-hmm.
You hosting an event at Funky Verbs, Funky Words.
Yeah,
Yep.
I was a guest host for
Absolutely.
Io Moore. So
Absolutely.
shout out to her and the Funky Words, Funky Verbs brand over there at the Bayou, which oddly enough, I'm going to be hosting there this Sunday.
That's heavy. That's heavy. That's
It's
heavy.
a nice little full circle moment.
That's heavy. That's heavy. So yeah, shout out to Io, shout out to Funky Verbs and everything. Yeah. So, what does poetry mean to you?
Ooh. Poetry is a means of sustenance. Poetry is a mean of care. And poetry is a powerful thing. Poetry is very therapeutic. It ain't therapy though. All right, like it does not negate internal things and the internal behaviors that need to change, the patterns that you need to break. But poetry is definitely powerful. Poetry is like, I say poetry reaches all the places that hands can't, because like hugs are medicine. You can very much like be calmed. It releases like oxytocin and all of those things, like dopamine, like anything that's equated to the love drug. That's what I feel when I write poetry, or when I'm in like a good poetic place and I'm hearing like people speaking with intention and pouring into places that really just need safety, that needs invitation to be vulnerable, to be open, and to be authentic. So yeah, poetry means a whole hell of a lot to me. I don't think I would exist as I am, or I don't think I would be as well adjusted if I did not have the outlet of poetry.
Okay, I hear that. So are you saying that poetry definitely ties into mental health?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, art therapy is a thing. You know, like there's a whole degreed program behind, you know, indulging in art therapy and teaching others that my art of choice is poetry and dance too, because movement, obviously those things help in your healing and your wellness journey. And poetry is very much tied into wellness, because it's just a way to release, it's a way to process, and when you invite others into your story, it's a very vulnerable thing to do, but sometimes someone else needs to hear you say the things that they have experienced, that they don't have the words to say, or they don't have the courage to say. The words might be in their head, but somehow it just does not find themselves on its tongue. Yes. So yeah, poetry is tied into mental health because it's tied into wellness, and the one thing I want to do is be well.
Yes. Now, do you believe that most people share their story within their poetry nowadays?
I can't speak for most people. Like I try to be very careful about like overgeneralizing. I do think there are a lot of intentional people who, yes, share their stories, you know, through their poetry. There's a lot of people who write about experiences that they were adjacent to, that they didn't necessarily go through, but somebody that they cared about, or somebody that was just, you know, in their vicinity went through. There's people that write poetry just because they are seeking attention. Everybody wants to be seen, except the people who don't want to be seen. And yeah, so I can't speak for everybody, but yes, I do think there are a lot more of us out there than what I guess the scene will give it credit for.
Absolutely. Now I want to dive into some deep questions. I see where you're going, but I definitely want to ask some questions. Now, because honestly, what I have seen, but also, do you believe that the poetry world have became oversaturated with meaningless poetry? with poetry that has not been pushing the culture forth?
Okay, so I'm not going to talk about anybody's art. Like, I'm not going to say that a poem is meaningless. However, the energy behind it might be meaningless. The reasons that someone is choosing to write about a particular thing, or being strategic about spitting a certain poem in a certain way. There's people that weaponize their poetry, try to, pick on people who they feel like can't write back. You know what I mean? Like, not fight back, but they can't write back. So you feel like you can, say whatever you want to say. So yeah, I'm not gonna say it's meaningless. However, sometimes the actions behind it, the reasons behind it, yeah, it can definitely be a lot of filler. Not everybody moves authentically. Poets are people, right? And we all know not everybody moves with the best intentions. So that's the simplest way I can say that.
Absolutely. When it comes to being a host,
Mm-hmm.
right, and just hosting events, what do you believe? What do you believe is the greatest thing that a host should have to capture her audience?
First of all, the host has personality. A good personality definitely can curate an environment, right?
Yes.
Because if your host is up there like low energy, like, yeah, we got this next poet, that's not going to be all that entertaining. Even if you got like some really good poets pulling the attention back, like, your host literally sets the tone. They're the first person you see. They're the first person to talk to you.
Yes.
They're the first person on the stage, and they set the tone every time a poet comes to step on stage. So if they giving you low energy, you know what I mean? Like, you done already like dropped the audience's expectations, and now the poet has to do extra work, to come up, introduce themselves, and like pick the energy back up. However, it's not just personality, because I think there's a lot of charismatic people that want to host events, and they are successful at it. However, there's a lot of admin that goes into hosting an event. I feel like you can be engaging with the audience. I feel like you can participate and banter, but do you know how to stay on time? Do you know how to stay on track? Or are you going on a tangent every single poet? Are you the reason that the event keeps going over time? Are you the reason that the event didn't start on time? So I think there's a lot more that goes into hosting than just showing up and being yourself. There's a lot of admin work behind that as well.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
The politics. That's something I want to discuss, right? The politics that surround the poetry scene. And it has affected many, but also I've seen that it has pushed out an image to the culture of that we are these type, I feel like it has pushed out an image of to the culture that we these type of people that's loud all the time, that's ignorant, that's always throwing out all this stuff out there. But I know you don't feel that way about the culture. So what is your positive response to that?
I almost feel like everything that you just said about like culture isn't even attributed to poetry, right? Because we know that there's poetry and we know that there's spoken word. Yes. We know that there's page poems, and we know that there's poems that we want to present and perform on stage, right? Yes. So when you're talking about the politics and people and poets being in their feelings, yeah, so all of those things is synonymous with how this overarching view of who Black people are. You know what I mean? And obviously a big part of the spoken word culture, I feel like Black people are the face of spoken word. When you think of spoken word poetry, do you think about a white person? You know what I mean? Like now, if I say, oh, poets, you might have like this diverse view in your head, and I love that for you. But when you talk about spoken word, I think it's a little different. So yeah, of course, I'm not going to buy into the, oh, we're too loud, especially as a Black woman. Be loud, be bold, be brave, be vibrant as fuck in any environment that you are in, because that's who you are. Okay. So yeah, I feel like that's very, very close to describing how the negative view of how people see Black people. So no, that does not encompass who we are, because we're also very caring. We're also very forgiving at that. I mean, just look at society at large. Black people way too forgiving. Poets and people in arts, because we're supposed to be soft and open and, oh, we care about the world. Not everybody cares about the world. And um the problems that you see and care about and feel like need to be platformed and uplifting is not going to be synonymous with the platforms that other people want to amplify, right? I care about the environment. I think littering makes you an actual trash ass person. If you always going and not caring about the next generation or how your carbon footprint impacts the world. Most poets ain't talking about that. Most people aren't talking about that. So something as simple as that, before you even get into much larger, much deeper, much closer issues like racism, like sexism and oppression and all of these things. So yeah, you can do a whole lot with that.
Okay. What do you love most about yourself?
Well, the thing that I love about myself is the fact that I can still love myself after everything that I've been through, after everything that I have rebuilt myself through. I love my ability to be resilient, but also very strict on my boundaries, my expectations, the things that I accept within myself and within my vicinity. So yes, I literally love my ability to love still being intact after all of the shitty things that I have experienced.
What is one of those life-changing things that you have been through that you would like to share that could help a young woman today that's possibly went through the same thing that you have went through in the past?
Said that's a loaded question. Okay. I have gone through a lot of things. If I'm speaking to other women, other young ladies, girls who are growing up, I will say, I would say one of my experiences, let's just kind of put it all in the same box of experience a lack of love, a lack of protection and care when it really mattered. Because anybody can tell you they're for you, anybody can tell you that they have your back. But until that's tested, you don't really know. Like, a lot of people are in proximity to other people whose friendships, relationship, love, romance, whatever, hasn't been tested yet. It's not that y'all strong because y'all actually poured into that foundation. It's strong because you ain't really been through shit. So I feel like one of my biggest lessons is honestly not outsourcing my healing, is really learning to sit in my stillness, sit with myself. I think a lot of misalignment happens in society, regardless on any level. It can be the person that you work with. It can be the person that you're trying to date. It can be the person that you're married to. A lot of misalignment happens when we depend on someone else to make us happy. If you haven't learned how to be happy with self, it's going to be hard for you to be happy basically dependent on someone else, because you are literally outsourcing your happiness. So that means that when they decide to pick up and go, they pick up and take your happy with you? I think the fuck not. So that's my biggest lesson, is being able to sit with myself, being able to pour into myself, and really listen to what it is that I need at that moment, and being able to give it to myself. Like, there are certain situations where I'm like, you know what? I deserve more than this. And I know I'm not asking for too much, but I am asking the wrong person. I need to give it to myself. If you deserve more, you need to learn how to give it to yourself sometimes. And that's one of the biggest lessons that I've learned in life. And that's across the board.
That's amazing. That's amazing. That's amazing. Wow. To dive into the instructor and the performer, right? How did it start as an instructor, as an artist instructor, and definitely how did it start as a performer?
Well, even in like imaginative play, like as a kid, I was always the teacher. I was always the one giving a lesson at the imaginary chalkboard, or I was always the one passing out the imaginary assignments and things like that. So if anything, it literally started with me being the eldest child. It started with me being a teacher since my brother was born. You know, we're like 5 years apart. So I've been indoctrinated as an instructor, as someone who's responsible for someone else and educating someone else. So it just grew from there. As you know, you get your first jobs, and you know what I mean, from camp counselors to my first paid job. I worked in the ER right there on Frankfurt Avenue, Frankfurt Hospital. Was my first like paying job or whatever, and I was the intake person at the emergency room. So I was literally the person typing, you know what I mean, the name, the symptoms and stuff. Yes. I learned what a propioneprism was at 13 years old. So I was like, what? I didn't even know how to spell this. So it's always been in me. But when I transitioned into entrepreneurship, I was a family reunification case manager. I used to help families transitioning back, like when their kids came out of like a placement or from a juvenile facility. Okay. I was the one that had to make sure the family had all of their ducks in a row, right? When I came out of that, I opened up my own gymnastics and dance facility. Yes. So there was a lot of training, not just on gymnastics, because I hadn't participated in, I wasn't a gymnast. I grew up very poor. We didn't have no access to those kinds of things. I had to train a lot on the fitness aspects. I had already had like child development and all of that stuff drilled into me because my degree is literally in human services. However, coming out of owning my own gym or whatever to then and still embarking on the fitness journey and things like that, like it just naturally transitioned into me continuing to be an instructor and teaching. I just went on to teach adults. As far as like my poetry and being a teaching artist there, it's just because if you are experiencing these things and you start kind of understanding, or I should say accepting, that people look up to you, that people look to you for guidance and all of those things. If I'm having these conversations after the poetry event, why not put everybody in a room where you can, you know, answer the questions all together and, you know, kind of give people a couple of tips because they want to grow, because they admire what you do. So I just think it was just a natural progression, because these are all the things that I'm already doing in my own life. It's just a matter of, okay, you putting it out there, I guess, for consumption. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yes. Wow. What do you believe is the hardest thing for people to accept about love?
The hardest thing for people to accept about love is that it doesn't always feel like you think it should. That you don't always get it when you think you deserve it. And you don't always get it returned at the same level or intensity that you give it. That's definitely the hardest thing for us to accept. Or I should say, those are some of the hardest things that I've had to accept in the past. So,
yes, yeah. Yes. And I heard you mention a few different times. You mentioned your siblings. How much love do you have for your siblings?
So here is the real. I have a lot of love for my siblings. I do not have relationships with my siblings. That's the short and dirty of it. The only sibling that I had a real relationship and connection to, and daily communication with, is now gone. So my family grew up very disjointed, very separate. My mother was an addict. So my mother lost custody of us when I was 9, going on 10. So we were all split up. There was like a couple of us that went to live with this aunt. There was a couple more that went to live with this aunt. And then the people whose fathers were in the picture, those couple of people went to go live with their fathers. So we all grew up separate at a very, very early age. 2 of my youngest brothers were adopted out to cousins, and I wound up living with my aunt and 3 of my sisters, and they were adopted too, but my aunt didn't change their name or anything like that, didn't change their last name, but they were adopted as well. So yeah, like we all grew up very disjointed. So yes, I have a lot of love for my siblings. However, I don't care who you are or where you came from. You don't get to be in my life and be disrespectful or be a user or just disregard my feelings. I've done my part as far as, like, I am the eldest. I reach out, I extend olive branches, but you can't you can bring them glasses of water, but you can't make them drink. So I gotta respect that. Again, we literally just answered the question about love. That's one of the hardest things to accept, that you can have all the best intentions, that you can have all the right behaviors, that you can literally extend yourself and overextend yourself and want that connection so bad. But if the other person is not on the same page, then you got to accept that and fall back.
Absolutely. 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 And just a few more questions, right? Why is so many different families separated? And what do you believe is the recipe to get these families back together, speaking and doing things together like they should be?
There's a lot of nuance in there, right?
Okay.
Because I feel like the Black family literally gets attacked on all sides, from the systemic oppression, from it literally being by design, that they wanted broken homes, they wanted the man out of the home. But then there's also the invisible shackles of slavery that is still wrapped around certain people's minds. Things like, oh, well, that's your family, you should forgive them, even though that person is literally harmful. Oh, well, you only get one mother, even though your mom might not actually be a mother. They may not actually be parenting. They might not actually be nurturing. We have, like, so many of these things that we are indoctrinated in, of just because you share DNA, you should be locked in always, no matter what, return to the places that try to destroy you. I don't believe it. I don't believe that. I've seen the negative impact of that. I've survived the negative impact of that. And I'm never going to agree to that or move along with that whole statement. What happens in this house stays in this house. It's like the biggest lie we have ever told ourselves in childhood, or parents told their children, because even if they don't speak it, the evidence of what goes on in that house walks around as a living, breathing product of what you put out into the world. People are out here walking around unhealed, damaged, perpetuating the hurt hurt people, head ass people that I cannot stand. That is a cop out. So yeah, I feel like in order to heal or return to this family unit, people have to do the work. Look at the things that are toxic and harmful within yourself and literally work to change. You can't pray away like some serious traumatic things that have happened. You can't like pray away the way that your brain has, like formed these patterns. You can't pray that away. Black people have a really big focus on, oh, if something's wrong, we got to go to church, we got to pray, we got to do these things. Well, yes, you can do those things, and you can go to therapy, and you can practice CBT, and you can make sure your kids are getting their checkups at the doctor and things like that. You can also utilize professional services to further help you be well adjusted. Basically, I'm saying, like, if you haven't done the internal work, if you're not ready to accept that you have done damage to the people that is trying to reconnect to you, then that's not fair. It's not fair for you to want forgiveness, but then not give acknowledgement or validation to somebody's feelings who you hurt. I think it's a very unfair thing to damage someone and then be like, oh, well, come on, man. Like, you didn't die, like, or be upset that they feel some type of way. It's like cutting somebody and be like, look, you just bled all over my favorite pair of pants. Like,
Exactly.
I think that's absolutely crazy. So yeah, I think in order to connect, people have to connect with themselves. Stop running from yourself.
Absolutely. So, wow. Listen, you gave us so much wisdom. Listen, this is what I love. This is why we brought you out, because we know that through the poetry, I hear culture. And that's what I'm about, culture. That's what Black 31 magazine is about, culture. So again, for the culture, what do you love most about Black people?
What do I love about Black? Same thing I love about myself: our resiliency, our ability to find humor in like some of the darkest times. Like, yes, it's not always appropriate to say the joke. Okay, y'all. Like, y'all gotta learn timing sometimes. Okay. However, that again comes from what we as a culture have gone through and have healed through and transitioned through in this country in particular. Like, being able to find humor in that relief in the moment of like some really hard and dark times, because that's a way that we keep ourselves from that's a way we keep ourselves from drowning beneath the grief, right?
Yes.
That bit of laughter adds buoyancy to the heart.
Yes.
And being able to still play and find lightness and just still be able to thrive with everything trying to bury us. I absolutely love that about Black people, and everything that we've gone through, everything that we witness and observe. It has made us some of the most creative and amazingly talented people I have ever seen in my entire life.
Yes.
So yeah, that's what I love about us.
That's heavy. That is amazing. The last two questions. Just let the people know, what are some of the greatest poetry platforms that's out there today?
Listen, the greatest poetry platforms are whatever platforms make you feel good about yourself, whatever platforms make you feel welcomed consistently, whatever platforms you feel like is pushing the culture forward in a proper way. Those are the best poetry platforms, because what I think is the best, the next person might not even know about. The next person might not even care about. The next person might think it's the worst. So at the end of the day, we're very biased with our opinions. So the greatest poetry platforms out there are the platforms doing it for the people, not doing it for the profit.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What advice do you have for young sisters growing up right now in this time right now, right? And they going through so much. I mean, so much technology. I mean, it's so much stuff being that's on our phones. There's so much stuff on TV. There's so much stuff in the streets. And some of these young sisters may have experienced something that you may have experienced. So what advice do you have for these young sisters growing up to stay grounded and being a woman and being successful, and most importantly, staying true to God?
Well, first and foremost, you got to believe in God. You got to believe that there is a source, and you have to believe that you are of the source and that the source is in you. If you don't believe in God, then I do feel like you are starting way behind the starting line if you don't believe in God. Life is so beautiful in the intricate design of life, from the way the trees branch out to, the way our lungs look. Like there's just so many things that connect us to nature to think that it isn't by design, right? I know I have come through so much, I don't know, just anguish and torment and just some really dark ish that would have literally killed the average person, but it didn't kill me. I know I ain't do that on my own. I might have a lot of grit and all of these other like keywords and things, but no, I had God, and that was, instilled in me at a very, very early age. So start there. Understand that you are the source and the source is in you. And once you understand that, you can also understand that you have a divine energy that you need to protect. I said it earlier, getting used to being by yourself. I'm not saying isolate. Understand that isolation can be a bitch. But solitude is grounding. Solitude is where I rebuilt my peace. Solitude is where I found myself and loved myself. So this way, the next time that love failed, be it friendship or romance or the love of a job, whatever it is, I still had love within me, regardless of what changed around me. If you don't have it for yourself, then you give anybody and anything to the right to take your joy away. If I can tell you anything, don't give anybody free reign to take your joy away. Protect it. Like we talk about women protecting their virtue and all of those things. If you started with the simple idea that you needed to protect your joy, it'll be a lot easier for you to protect your virtue, for you to not give yourself and give of yourself to any old place and any old body, just to have companionship, just to have some proximity to closeness. And really, you're not that close. You in proximity to potential and fantasy and things of that nature, but you're not really in touch with anything real. So protect your joy, and then instill that peace within you, so it's not as easy to disrupt you or throw you off your square when things don't go your way, because life come at you so fast. And yeah, you got to be able to pivot, and you got to be able to put yourself on solid ground. When everybody and everything else walks away, you're going to be stuck with you. What that look like for you?
Absolutely. That's heavy. That's heavy. That's words from Lady Syren. Let's go. Let's go. So listen, just let the people know, where can they find you at?
Yes. So you can find me at Lady Syren. So it's just Lady Syren, LADYSYREN. So my siren got a Y, and if it ain't got a Y, baby, it don't apply to me. All right.
Absolutely. And can you just repeat that just one more time into this camera?
Yes. So you can find me at Lady Syren. So it's LADYSYREN. So my siren has a Y. And if it ain't got a Y, then baby, it don't apply to me.
That's heavy. That's heavy. Let's go. Let's go. Listen, we appreciate you. Listen, we appreciate you so much. Listen, y'all, go check out and go support Lady Syren. Listen, y'all heard what she said. Listen, I don't even have to tell y'all. Y'all heard what she said. She on Instagram. She on all the platforms. Go check out Lady Syren. Listen, tap in. Black 31 magazine each and every week. Listen, we can have your favorite poet. We can have your favorite artist. Listen, we can have your favorite instructor. Listen, we could have your favorite football coach. We could have the little girl down the street with the lemonade stand, or it could be you. So listen, we are the platform of truth. We are the home of the champions, and we are the place where we uplift man, woman, and child. Peace and love, y'all. One.
Peace and blessings.
Invested in the people, so I highly stress it. Pay attention, train your mind. During these times, we need more education, not incarceration, to elevate from negativity at all costs. Knowledge and power. Remember, this game spilled given. Embrace it. TYI, Poetic G. Peace and love, one. I love it.